One is having a formalized goal setting program. You've heard goals like how many times? That's on the bingo card like 50 times, right? So, but it is a principle that I find that people will do like a light version of this too. I'm talking about a formalized program in your organization where you share with you and your people the personal and professional goals you've identified. It's not just some exercise people do in a silo. And the one process I would recommend is the what, why, how process. So for every goal, the goal is typically the what. So let's say someone says, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, or I'm going to open 5 accounts. Well, that's the what. And then the how would be, for the 5 accounts, it would be, make 10 new dials a week, have 5 new appointments a month, whatever it would be, but some kind of how. And even on weight loss, like for someone who wants to lose 10 pounds, is the how like a super secret formula that like nobody knows? It's like it's hidden somewhere, how to lose 10 pounds. No, it's pretty available. There's no one in this room who wouldn't know. There's probably 3 or 4 things you need to do. But the people who follow through and don't, it's all about the why. If someone doesn't have a compelling why, they're not going to do the how and they're not going to get the what. Anyone I've worked with and coached over the years who's done something significant, for example, with their health, they had a what goal for their health. The only ones who follow through and do the tough stuff, they have a compelling why. So when you're doing a goal-setting program with your people, I'd encourage you to spend some time working with your people and talking through, do they have a compelling why? And if they don't, challenge them on it. Second one is accountability, and specifically WIMS as part of the accountability process. Now, John Rosso talked about this yesterday also. WIMS stands for weekly individual meetings, and it's part of the three-legged stool, we'll call it, when it comes to accountability. The first is cookbook, the second is tracking, the third is WIMS. All 3 of those I'd encourage you to have as part of your process. So the cookbook are the behaviors, the tracking is actually seeing what they're doing, and the WIM is the weekly feedback mechanism for you to have a conversation with them to then recalibrate, look at the cookbook the next week, track it, have a WIM, and that should be the regular process. So having that might be an improvement for you. Public tracking. I'm a big believer in public tracking. You can jump up and down all day long trying to motivate, but for many people, public pressure is the most powerful motivator they're ever going to have. And so if you're not sharing and publicly tracking some of these things, I'd recommend it. And I'd also give you a quick tidbit here about what to track. Because sometimes I've seen where sales are tracked and it's reported. And it's possible that a person who just has the monster account, who milks that account and doesn't grow it, still shows up on the top of the list. And now we're sending the message that one day if you stick around long enough and get lazy and get that big account, you can too be on the top. So instead, are you tracking dials or conversations or FAEs? Right? Who's tracking FAE is first appointment ever. A lot of people track meetings and appointments, which we heard about yesterday, but how about FAEs, first appointments ever? That's an early leading indicator as to what's going to happen later on. So when you're tracking it, the other thing visually I'd recommend, you do it in a stacked format, not an alphabetical format. It sounds trivial, but it's not. I want people to look at that list, and they look at the top, the who's on the top, the bottom who's on the bottom. They shouldn't have to figure out, okay, where am I at in that process? Number 4, manage turnover. So this might be an improvement for you. 80% turnover on a sales force, I would say, is a turnover problem. 0% turnover is also a turnover problem. Great sports teams don't have 0% turnover. If they think their job's an entitlement, then they're going to act that way. They need to know they've got to earn their spot on the team every year. And so what is your managed turnover goal for this year? Depends on what sources you look at. 15 to 20% tends to be the number for sales forces that's healthy in a year. And if you haven't lost anyone, I've had people, I haven't lost anyone in 5 years. I don't have you've got a turnover problem. That is a problem. There's not a sports team that exists that doesn't have turnover in a planned manner. And the last one is a personal development culture. Having a culture where it's just expected that they spend time on growing themselves and getting better. And it shouldn't just be go to Sandler training and that's all they do, and then they become hostages. It should be a culture where the people you're attracting are the ones who want to grow and continue to grow. And here's the numbers from Aberdeen Group that from a few years ago, some of you may have been exposed to these numbers. 835 sales organizations were surveyed for this. and the top 20% of the I think a best of class is what they called them. 4.33 hours a month for salespeople, 3.54 hours a month for sales managers on training and personal development every month. That's top 20%. The gold standard, when you really dive into this stuff, is 30 minutes a day. And 30 minutes a day is not hard with technology. You know, with podcasts and Sandler Online and all the books that we have available, there's no problem getting to 30 minutes a day if you're doing it when you're working out or commuting or whatever you're doing. It's not hard to do. David Sandler said about coasting. I love this one. So this is Sandler's version, and we've all heard about the person who grows to a certain point in their career and then they camp out for the rest of their career. So it says on their tombstone, dead at 30, buried at 80. And so that's a classic Sandler, right? That's been around quite a while. And the Michelangelo quote, of course, is always one of my favorites. I'm still learning at age 87. And when he was around, 87 was kind of old, right? So.